Hey you guys, today it's time for us to learn something new together. I'm going to take an Epson printer and turn it into a sublimation printer. Stay tuned to see how to do that and how to make this sublimation printed shirt. So today we're going to take the Epson EcoTank ET3760 and we're going to make it into a sublimation printer. So I thought I'd just kind of show you how it comes in the box. You're going to get this ink, toss it, you don't need it. If you're making this sublimation printer, you do not want to use the printer ink, the inkjet printer ink that comes with it. And you can see I'm just pulling stuff out of the box and throwing it off to the side. Here's the cord, and we're definitely going to need that. Here are the other 3 inks that come in the box. Get rid of them, you don't need it. So now we're just going to get this whole printer out, put it to the side. I'm going to get rid of this box, get it out of the way so that we have room to actually show you everything that's in it. Here are the instructions, the cord, and moving that box out of the way. There we go. So it comes way packaged in tons of plastic, and you've got this blue tape all over it. So once you get it out of the plastic, you're going to toss that to the side, because guess what? You don't need that either. And then you're going to just go around and take off all the blue tape. And there is a ton of blue tape. So make sure that you lift up the tray, go through the paper tray, get all the blue tape off of that. You just don't want to leave anything on there. It will not let you actually print anything if it sees that there's still tape somewhere left on the printer. So now I'm just going to look at the instructions that come with it, make sure there's nothing special that I'm missing. First thing to do is to unpack it, check. Next thing is to fill the ink tanks. Here we go. So biggest thing I can tell you is get some paper towels, have them on hand. Make sure to have gloves, and if you have an old towel or something that you can put underneath it, you can see that I was actually just resting the top tray on top of the ink bottle lid. Don't do that. If you pull it back a little bit more, it will actually hold itself up, so you don't have to worry about it breaking anything. I'm using the Hippo Sublimation ink. I purchased this on Amazon. I will link it down below. Again, I'm just opening this package up, getting everything set up as best I can so that I can be as neat and orderly as possible. And it comes with 4 syringes, 4 needles that are not sharp, and 2 pairs of gloves. I would absolutely recommend, if you have better fitting gloves, to use those. They just kind of get in the way anyway. So now I'm just setting up the syringes. I'm putting them together. You can see they have a cap to them. And so you're just going to remove the cap as soon as I get everything set in place. Remove the cap, and you're going to just put it down into the bottle. Push it down a little bit so that you get a good suction. Guess what? You actually have to flip the bottle upside down in order to get the ink out. Makes sense. You have to do that with, everything else. And so I'm just pulling the syringe down until it is full. My dog is a little hesitant. She doesn't know what's going on. So now I've removed the needle, the syringe, and I'm putting it down into the ink tank where the black goes. Make sure that you match up the correct color with the correct tank. That would be terrible if you do not have the correct color put in the correct tank, because what will happen is then when you go to print something, anything that is black, if you had yellow in there, it will just mix the wrong colors and give you the wrong look overall. So I'm just going to continue doing this with all 4 colors. I'm putting the lids back on as I go because I don't want anything to spill. These inks will stain. So now I'm just going to follow suit with the blue, the red, and the yellow and fill them into the correct tanks. So I can't stress enough, make sure you have some paper towels or cleaning supplies on hand. The red didn't get enough suction between the syringe and the bottle, and so I had a little bit of spillage. Thankfully, I did have some paper towels on hand that I had gone and grabbed. And just take your time, go slow, and do everything very carefully. And done. So I moved my printer over to where I'm going to house it, and I'm just going to follow along on the screen what it says to do. I plugged it in and I press the power button, and it is just kind of warming up. And I'm just going to follow the instructions on the screen as I would if I were setting it up as a normal printer. So I'm checking the paper tray. I'm going to put regular printer paper in there to do any printing and like printing checks that it has me do. I did put, and you'll see this later on, I put sublimation printer paper in, but I put regular printer paper on top of it so that I'm not wasting any sublimation paper just doing like printer checks. Now it goes into a 10-minute setup and processing, and you just kind of let it do its thing as it prints these pages. Okay, so now I'm going to load up the sublimation paper. This is what I used. Again, I'll link it down below. You want to make sure that the blank side is down because that's where it's going to print to. And we load the paper, pull the tray out, and I'm printing a sublimation print that I purchased off of Etsy. I will also link that down below for where I found it. Now to heat press it. I set my heat press to 400 Fahrenheit, and then you also want to set it for 60 seconds because you're going to press it for a full 60 seconds. So now I'm going to get my shirt ready while the heat press is warming up and it's not too hot. I'm just kind of laying my shirt out, taking a look at what I'm going to do. I've decided to thread this shirt onto my heat press, and I'm just going to pull it as flat as I can to get any wrinkles out and to make sure that you don't have any creases in the shirt when you press your design. I'm actually gonna put a couple of pieces of printer paper underneath because it is ink that I don't want it to bleed through onto my heat press, and I'm just pressing slightly. I'm not putting full pressure for about 10-15 seconds just to kind of smooth out the surface a little bit more and get any like moisture that could be sitting in that shirt, it is coming out. So now my heat press is all heated up to what it says 401, set for 60 seconds. And I've got my 2 pieces of printer paper in between my shirt and the bottom plate of my heat press. And so now I'm just straightening it out, smoothing it out, making sure it's laying flat. Again, don't want those creases. I'm gonna go ahead and like heat press a little bit longer because that other one was a bit earlier. Now I'm taking my design, and I wanna make sure that I stress that when you print it, any wording needs to be backwards because when you lay it down, it will be setting the correct way on the shirt. So I put that there. I do have a Teflon sheet up there on top plate, and I'm putting 2 more pieces of paper right there so that there's another barrier in between that and the Teflon sheeting. The last thing you want is to have any like marking show up on any other shirt that you didn't want to be there. I'm gonna lift it. It is warm when you pull that up, so just be aware of that. And when you remove it, you've got this beautiful design on your shirt. So I'm just going to carefully take it off the heat press, making sure not to touch that top plate. And there it is. There's my beautiful sublimated shirt. I am extremely pleased with how this shirt turned out. Please make sure that you're using sublimation paper and sublimation ink. Make sure that you are using a shirt or anything that is a good high polyester count. If you have a low polyester count, it's just gonna come out more vintagey looking. It's not a bad look, it's just whatever look you want. If you want it to be a much more solid look to it than in the ink, then please be sure to have a higher polyester count as the sublimation ink is adhering to those fibers. I hope you guys enjoyed this and I made it easy. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below, and everything, as I said, will be linked in the description box down below. Now go get crafty.